questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Il y a un an.
1 year ago, the Minister of Finance admitted that deficits cast further oil on the inflationary fire. She promised 4 things: that the debt to GDP ratio would go down, but it's going up; that deficits would go down, but they're going up; that COVID debt would be reimbursed, but it's going up; and lastly, that the budget would be balanced in 2027. And now she's promising that it will never be balanced. How can Canadians believe anything that this Prime Minister and Minister of Finance say about money? The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
World, this budget will ensure that Canadians can continue to count on their government being there for them. We are meeting the challenges of today and tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, by introducing a new grocery rebate which will deliver targeted support to 11 million Canadians, lowering credit card transaction fees for small businesses, increasing investments in our public healthcare system, making transformative investments in our economy, Mr. Speaker. This is a budget of hope and ambition. We are putting in place the building blocks today so that we can realize today's dreams tomorrow.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Today's dreams. It's a pipe dream, Mr. Speaker. A year ago, she said, and I quote, "We are absolutely determined that the debt to GDP ratio must continue to decline." It's going up. Our pandemic deficits are and must continue to be reduced. They're going up. The extraordinary debts we incurred must be paid down. They're not only not being paid down, they're going up. And that the budget would be balanced in 2027. Now, they admit that the budget will never balance itself. Given these 4 falsehoods, how can Canadians believe anything this minister or prime minister say about money?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're going to take no lessons from a Leader of the Opposition that tells Canadians to hedge on inflation by putting money into crypto. But let's look at fiscal responsibility, Mr. Speaker. Canada will have the lowest deficit and the lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7. The deficit is projected to decline every year. Public debt charges as a share of the economy will remain historically low, Mr. Speaker. The strongest economic growth in the G7, 830 jobs created since the beginning of the pandemic, a record 85.7% participation of Canadian women in the labour force. Mr. Speaker, the future is bright for Canada, and this budget delivers that future.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, what this government is putting before us is a budget with $60 billion additional dollars in inflationary spending. That's $4,200 additional dollars for every Canadian family. It's complete nonsense. Canadians can no longer pay their bills. This government has lost control of our country's finances. Canadians are having trouble paying their bills, buying a house, or feeding their children. How will they survive this budget? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, Canadians watching at home today can see that the Leader of the Opposition is very disconnected. We listened closely to Canadians. They asked us 3 things: to act, to do something about the cost of living and the cost of food; secondly, to invest in healthcare and dental care; and thirdly, to invest in the green economy to create the jobs of the future. That's exactly what Canadians asked us, and that's exactly what we're doing, building the future together with Canadians to be a leader in the 21st century economy.
Admit it, the deficits drive inflation, and promised restraint. Instead, what they delivered was $60 billion of brand new spending. That is $4,200 for every family in Canada. These are families who are already skipping meals because they can't afford food, whose 35-year-olds are living in their parents' basements because they can't afford housing. How will Canadian families carry on their backs an extra $4,200 in government costs when we're already going broke as a country?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
What's really disappointing disappointing, Mr. Speaker, is that the Leader of the Opposition has already told Canadians that he's voting against this budget, and he's voting against them. Because what he's voting against, Mr. Speaker, is a grocery rebate for 11 million Canadians. What he's voting against, Mr. Speaker, is dental care for 9 million Canadians, including children, seniors, and people with disabilities. And what he's voting against, Mr. Speaker, is a tax-free savings account for first-time homebuyers, Mr. Speaker. He's not there for Canadians. We are. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Opposition.
We've had 8 years of these multi-billion-dollar government programs, and what has it given us? 40-year highs in inflation, 1 in 5 Canadians skipping meals because they cannot afford groceries, 9 in 10 young people stuck in their parents' basements because they cannot afford housing, students living in homeless shelters because the cost of living has risen so fast. These hardworking Canadians who do the work deserve a country that works for them, not an out-of-control tax and squander NDP budget like we have before us today. When will they rein in their spending so Canadians can pay their bills?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what Canadians deserve is a government that's going to respond to them in their time of need. And that's exactly what we are doing with this budget, and that's exactly what we've been doing for the past 7.5 years. But like the Conservatives voted against the Canada Child Benefit, which provides up to $7,000 a year for vulnerable families, they're voting against Canadians who need help in this difficult time. They're going to vote against a grocery rebate that's going to help 11 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. If they care about these issues, they have a simple option. Reverse course, support this budget, and support Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, Mr. Speaker, we know that carbon capture is not green. Nuclear energy is not green. Offshore Arctic oil extraction is not green. $17 billion was one of the main new points in yesterday's budget. Will this government admit that this money is going directly to oil companies? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The short answer is no. We will not admit that because it's not the case. The David Suzuki Foundation said the following yesterday. Budget 2023's investments in renewable energy will make Canada a leader. Or, we also heard about unprecedented investments that this government is making in green investment that will enable us to stop depending on fossil fuels. We agree with that, which is what Greenpeace said, and we also agree with David Suzuki, the David Suzuki Foundation, not the Bloc Québécois. The Honourable Member, the National Assembly, which speaks for Quebec, passed a unanimous motion to ask that we not give more money in subsidies to the oil industry, but that's what Ottawa is doing. Quebec also asked that the federal government not interfere in areas of provincial jurisdiction, for example, dental care, but that's exactly what the federal government is doing. Will this government admit that with a budget that is mainly helping oil companies and the NDP, it has ultimately tabled an anti-Quebec budget? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank my colleague for continuing with the list of organizations that are supporting the federal budget tabled yesterday. For example, the International Organization for Sustainable Development, which has stated that Canada is making historic investments in green energy and freshwater protection throughout the country. I agree with that organization, not with the leader of the Bloc Québécois.
Député de Burnaby Sud.
New Democrats are proud that we forced this government for a historic expansion of Medicare to include dental care for the first time. That alongside our push to double the GST rebate means that families will save up to $1,700 on average per year. We've also forced this government for the first time ever to have strings attached to investments to fight the climate crisis, which require guarantees of good wages and good union jobs. Now, if this government is running out of ideas, we have more. Yes, we do. Will this government take the housing crisis seriously and finally build more homes that people can afford faster?
Honourable Minister for Housing.
I want to thank the Honourable Member for the important question. And I direct him to look at our national housing strategy. record number of investments to make sure that we build more affordable housing in this country, including the $4 billion recently announced Housing Accelerator Fund to set us as a country to double housing construction and pay particular attention to affordable housing. In addition to that, making sure that we're protecting renters and helping them through the Canada Housing Benefit and the top-up of $500 for over almost 2 million Canadian renters to help them with the high cost of rent.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
This government is not meeting the urgency of the crisis with the steps required. On est fiers qu'on ait forcé ce gouvernement.
We are proud that we forced this government to bring in dental care, and we are proud that we forced this government to double the GST credit, which will save families money. But there is much to be done. Economists have said that we are very likely to be heading into a recession. When will this Prime Minister bring in an EI system that covers all workers? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
We know Canada's EI system is complex, and that's why we're focused on improving it. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2023 invests in seasonal workers so they have 5 additional weeks of coverage for a total of 45 weeks. Also in Budget 2023, we propose establishing a new independent tripartite Board of Appeal to hear cases regarding employment insurance claims. In the past 2 years, Mr. Speaker, the Minister has led more than 35 national and regional roundtables with workers, employers, and academics. EI reform is a priority, Mr. Speaker. We are on it, and we will get it done. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister fled the House of Commons instead of answering questions on public safety. A series of crimes followed the various Liberal NDP policies that were brought in to free repeat offenders. We have lost half a dozen people to murder over the last few weeks, including a police officer in Quebec. Will this Prime Minister turn around the policies that are freeing some of our worst offenders in order to protect Canadians? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, it's clear that my honourable colleague did not hear the answer yesterday. I will repeat it. Mr. Speaker, we are working with the provinces and territories for exactly that, to change the bail system. And indeed, that is to address the challenge of repeat offenders and serious offenders, as well as to give communities a role in determining bail. Together, we can address this serious issue and find solutions.
Le chef de l'opposition.
Still, the Prime Minister does not have the guts to stand up and answer the question. Of course not. He's protected by armed men every single day. So he's not worried about the streets that are turning into savage chaos since he brought about catch and release bail. We don't need to work with the provinces to change the bail laws. They are exclusively the federal jurisdiction right in the criminal code. The Prime Minister has unleashed a 32% increase in violent crime since he brought in the catch and release bail policies. Will he finally summon the courage to stand on his feet, admit he was wrong, reverse the policies, and choose jail, not bail, for violent offenders?
The Honourable Minister for the Honourable Government.
What we see the Leader of the Opposition do time and time again is launch personal attacks, make outlandish allegations like saying the Prime Minister of this country doesn't care about victims and doesn't care about those that are victimized. I can tell you right now, Mr. Speaker, that the policy advocated by the Leader of the Opposition was TRIs. In fact, in the United States, Newt Gingrich, when you go back to the contract with America, said that the biggest mistake he made of his career was following the policies that that member is advocating. They were an abject failure. They did nothing for public safety, and neither will personal attacks on the Prime Minister or any other member of this House.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Well, Mr.
Mr. Speaker, the policies of this Liberal government have led to this. On Saturday, another stabbing death on the TTC in Toronto. A 16-year-old boy was murdered. On Sunday, a 37-year-old man was stabbed to death at a Starbucks in Vancouver. On Monday, a police officer was killed in Quebec while responding to a call. On Tuesday, a teenage girl was shot to death in a car in Calgary. Today, a woman was stabbed and severely injured on a train in Calgary. Mr. Speaker, violent crime is up 32% as a result of these Liberals' catch and release policies. So what's it going to take? How many people are going to have to die, Mr. Speaker, before they step up and fix it?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
I want to be clear that our hearts go out to every single victim that has been impacted by violent crime. The Conservatives heckle, Mr. Speaker. They speak a lot about common sense. I'll tell you what common sense is. Common sense is not returning to the stale and failed policies which led to police cuts led by Conservatives, which led to weakened borders, which were a result of Conservative cuts, and, Mr. Speaker, which saw Conservatives give up on vulnerable Canadians while this government continues to support them. Mr. Speaker, drop the slogans. Let's focus on solutions. Let's do this work together so we can protect our communities.
The member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal minister can make up whatever stories he wants, but the proof of the priority or lack of priority on fighting violent crime is in black and white in their budget. There was not one mention of fighting violent crime in that budget yesterday. Not one. It is not a priority for these Liberals, Mr. Speaker. And you know what? The reality is, if Canadians want repeat violent offenders out of our communities, this Liberal government is the very last government that's going to do it. Their 8-year record of catch and release policies proves that, Mr. Speaker. So isn't that right? They're never going to fix this, and they're only going to make it worse, Mr. Speaker. Isn't that right?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague purports to care about victims. Where was she when she had an opportunity to support the $450 million which we invested in the CBSA to stop the illegal flow of guns into our country? Where was she, Mr. Speaker, and the rest of the Conservative Party when it came to supporting law enforcement with over $360 million voted for it? What did they do? They voted against, Mr. Speaker. Where was she when it came to the $250 million under the Building Safer Communities Fund to support vulnerable Canadians with mental health supports? They voted against. Mr. Speaker, I invite the Conservatives to get on board so we can protect our communities.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday in Calgary, a teenage girl was shot when she was sitting in a car. No one knows why. The day before in Louisville, Sergeant Maureen Bro was killed while carrying out her duties. Violence is increasing everywhere. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister adopted Bill C-5, which enables violent criminals to undergo their sentence at home in the community where they committed their crime. I tabled Bill C-325 to correct this monumental mistake in C-5. Will the Prime Minister and his caucus support my bill? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, what the Honourable colleague is saying is false. Serious crimes deserve serious consequences, and Bill C-5 includes these types of sentences only in cases where public safety is not threatened. Mr. Speaker, we are working closely with the provinces and territories to address this issue. We will improve the system by working together. Slogans will not help, Mr. Speaker. It is working together that will lead to solutions. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, it is the Minister of Justice whose words make no sense. For example, right after Bill C-5 was adopted, we saw that Jonathan Gravel ended up getting only home arrest after violently assaulting a woman. But if it weren't for C-5, he would be behind bars. I tabled the bill to rectify this type of horrible situation, which makes no sense. Will the Minister of Justice understand what I'm saying and support my bill? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-5's goal, its goal was to do something about systemic racism in the system and the systemic overrepresentation of Indigenous and Black people in the justice system. Serious crimes deserve serious consequences, always. If my honourable colleague wishes to take issue with the decisions made by judges in our system, He can, but it would be much more productive to work together to find solutions.
Député de Joliette.
The honourable member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, in yesterday's budget, the Liberals spent huge amounts of money to please the NDP while interfering with provincial jurisdiction. But today, the government of Quebec requested that it can withdraw with compensation from the dental care system. We already have our own. So instead of creating new programs, the government should adequately fund existing programs. So will the federal government allow Quebec to withdraw with full compensation? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am very pleased to hear my colleague refer to the major investments that were confirmed yesterday in Budget 2023. These investments will support hundreds of thousands of Canadians, patients, workers throughout Canada and Quebec. And the dental care system that will be soon brought into place will help millions of Quebecers to better take care of their dental health. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Well, Mr. Speaker, Quebec is also concerned about the fact that the budget will be sending money that was supposed to be for the environment, that it will be sending it to oil companies. Up to $37 billion over 10 years could be used for dirty energy projects or to support hydrocarbon production. This morning, the National Assembly was unanimous and asked the federal government to end all direct or indirect subsidies to oil or gas companies using Quebec money. Will the government finally listen to Quebec and stop investing our money in dirty energies? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois is always nagging and complaining and grimacing. If we help people who need it, they're nagging. If we support the environment, they're complaining. They're always saying the same thing and trying to pick fights rather than being happy that we're investing in health, dental care, the environment, helping people buy groceries. That's a government that takes action.
Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Inflation said she didn't want to add fuel to the inflationary fire. Yet in yesterday's budget, she literally threw a $43 billion jerry can on the inflationary fire that she created in the first place, and literally put $4,300 of extra cost on each and every Canadian households. Inflation is at a 40-year high. Gas, groceries, home heating, mortgages, rents, all have doubled because of the failed policies of this Liberal NDP government. In what world is it fair to add an extra $4,300 on the backs of hardworking Canadian households?
The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
Conservatives can lack ambition for this country, but the Liberals know that we have a golden opportunity to build the economy for the future, to have hundreds of thousands of jobs in hydrogen, in clean tech, in green tech, to feed and fuel the world, Mr. Speaker. That's why our budget puts in the building blocks for the economy of the future, puts a marker down to help Canadians struggling with inflation, and reinforces our healthcare system for the next 10 years. The Conservatives don't like it. Canadians asked us to do it, and that's our job, and we're going to continue to deliver for Canadians.
Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Adding $4,300 on the backs of each and every household. And the Liberals think everyone is stupid, that we should join in on their war on work and on paychecks, that we should support their failed inflationary policies. We're not gullible like the NDP. We're going to stand up for Canadians every single day. And this is a government that says they're fiscally prudent, then turns around and pile drives Canadians with an extra $4,300 of cost. They claim that they care about the pain of Canadians, yet they're going to increase the cost of their failed carbon tax just this Saturday. Again, in what world is it fair to add an extra $4,300 on the backs of hardworking Canadian families?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, in what world is it fair to tell Canadians who are dealing with the most difficult time since the Second World War to use the kind of incendiary language and misrepresentation of facts that we saw on the other side? We are going through a global inflation challenge, but this is a pattern of behavior where they make it personal, they attack, and they make up facts. You take the Prime Minister being in London, where they talked about the cost of a hotel room. That hotel room, Mr. Speaker, was for more than one room, and it included rooms for security. There is a constant effort on the part of the party opposite.
The honourable member has 10 seconds left. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would behoove us in this House when we are dealing with the issues that are as serious as we're dealing with, to instead of advancing a partisan interest, as certainly was incredibly evident in that last question, to be with hyperbole and misrepresentation. Instead, let's deal seriously with the issues in front of us, honestly, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent.
After 8 years of the federal government, we had a clear demonstration that the uncontrolled spending party continues. A $43 billion deficit. $43 billion that we don't have. $43 billion. And we are billing our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. $43 billion that's going to contribute to inflation. And on Saturday, taxes are going to go up. $43 billion deficit is $4,300 more per Canadian family. Can the Prime Minister repeat his sentence? A budget balances itself. The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
Le budget.
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, this budget will enable Canadians to continue counting on their government support. We will meet the challenge by bringing in a new grocery rebate, which will benefit 11 million Canadians. We will increase our health care payments. We are investing in the future of our economy. We are laying the foundation for a strong future economy. That is our duty, and we will do so for Canadians. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, a year ago, almost to the day, the Minister of Finance said, we are determined to ensure that the debt-to-GDP ratio goes down. But today, the opposite is happening. She said our deficits must go down, but now we're seeing the opposite. She also said debt must and will be reimbursed, but it's the opposite. Can the Minister of Finance rise from her seat in the House of Commons, look Canadians in the eye, and say, I'm sorry I lied to you? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. I'd like to thank my colleague, and yes, I will look directly into his eyes as well as the Canadians listening. We listen to Canadians on their side of the House. They should do that a little more often, Mr. Speaker. Canadians said something very clear to us, help us with the cost of living. And now 11 million Canadians will benefit from the GST grocery rebate. That's what being there for people looks like. People also said help us with healthcare, and that's also something we're investing in because it's a priority for Canadians. And they also said create the jobs of the future because we want a future for our children, and that's what we're doing.
Député de Burnaby Sud.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Price for a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto has now hit $2,500. The cost of housing in our country is skyrocketing. We are in a housing crisis that's gripping the entire nation. Every community is feeling the impact. People cannot find a home that's in their budget. People are struggling in inadequate housing. And this government doesn't understand how serious it is. So when will this Prime Minister take the housing crisis seriously and finally build more homes that people can afford faster?
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Housing.
Speaker, in addition to the $4 billion Housing Accelerator Fund to speed up the construction of new housing for more Canadians, and a rent-to-own program, a $500 federal top-up for Canadian renters, a $40,000 tax-free first-time home savings account, new guidelines to protect Canadians with mortgages facing exceptional circumstances. In addition to that, Budget 2023 doubles housing construction this decade, directly supports those with the cost of housing, helps Canadians to save for their first home, curb unfair practices that drive up the price of housing, and support the construction of deeply affordable housing.
Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Economists are warning that a recession is very likely coming our way. And the reality is that the debate isn't about whether or not it's coming, it's about how big or small it is. And workers are staring down the face of a recession with an EI program that doesn't cover all workers. Yeah. Unions, leaders, organizers have all raised the concern and the alarm bells that we need an EI system that works. When will this government fix EI so it's there for every worker?
Hear, hear. Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Labour.
Mr. Speaker, we understand that EI benefits need to be fair, more responsive, and more adequate to the needs of Canada's evolving workforce. That's why we are committed to comprehensively modernizing the EI system. We consulted widely with unions, workers, employers, and other partners so that we can build an EI system that meets the needs of Canadians for decades to come. We have already extended EI sickness benefits from 15 to 26 weeks, and with Budget 2023, we propose extending support for seasonal workers until October 2024. Mr. Speaker, the Minister has always said we need to get this right. This is a priority. We are on it, and we will get this done.
Well, member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Increases in duties such as those on alcohol can sometimes provide predictability to businesses. However, as all members of this House know, we are in an unusually high inflation situation. On April the 1st, the excise inflation adjustment on alcohol was set to increase by 6.3%. So I'm asking the Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance to tell this House what the government is doing to assist breweries, winemakers, and spirit providers in this country.
Minister for Tourism.
Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague and friend from Etobicoke Lakeshore, and indeed all members of the Liberal caucus for raising this important issue for the government and for their hard work on the file. In the budget we tabled yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we've temporarily capped the excise inflation adjustment for alcohol for 2% for 1 year as of April 1st, 2023. This important relief...
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt. I'm having a hard time hearing the answer. The Honourable Minister, maybe about 20 seconds, if you don't mind, on that one.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Etobicoke Lakeshore, all Liberals, for leaning in on this issue. In the budget yesterday, we capped the inflation excise tax at 2%, Mr. Speaker. That is great news for the tourism sector, great news for Canadians. We listen and we deliver.
The member for Foothills.
The Prime Minister's new spending spree in this year's budget is going to cost every Canadian family more than $4,300. And Canada's food price index is showing that groceries for a family of four are going to be more than $1,000 in 2023. And yet, this Prime Minister wants to make food even more expensive by increasing the carbon tax on April 1st. So why is the Prime Minister choosing to increase taxes, fan the inflationary flames, rather than make food more affordable for every Canadian family?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
If the Conservative members of Parliament really cared about the cost of food, they would do something really simple, which is support this budget, because in it there is a grocery rebate for 11 million Canadians that is going to help them with the high cost of food. Mr. Speaker, if the Conservative members of Parliament cared about the high cost of living on families, they would have supported our Canada Child Benefit, which provides up to $7,000 per child per family for the most vulnerable. They have some easy things that they could do to support Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
For Foothills.
If they really cared about the price of food, they would actually decrease the carbon tax, because then Canadians wouldn't need a grocery rebate. And the food professor, Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, said the grocery rebate isn't going to help because it's the carbon tax, not climate change, that is driving food inflation. And he's right. The Liberals' new spending in this year's budget is going to cost every Canadian family $4,300 a year. And when they triple the carbon tax, it will cost Alberta families a net loss of $2,200 a year. How many families are going to have to go hungry before they realize this is a mistake and axe the carbon tax?
L'honorable ministre des Sports.
La différence entre nous et les conservateurs, c'est que les conservateurs.
The difference between us and the Conservatives is that no matter what's going on, they're attached to one ideological idea, which is austerity. On this side, Canadians know that we're there for them, whether it be during the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, increased costs of living. They know we're there to help those who need it with the cost of groceries, with rent, and to make sure that everyone has access to quality health care, universal and public, throughout the entire country. Thank you. Before moving on to the next question, I want to remind members that if we look in one direction and talk. It's not where you look that the voice goes. It goes everywhere, and I can hear you. Just a little reminder. The honourable member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, less than 1 year ago, the Deputy Prime Minister stood in this House and said, "We are absolutely determined that our debt to GDP ratio must continue to decline. Our deficits must continue to be reduced. This is our fiscal anchor. This is a line that we shall not cross." Promise made, promise broken. The big spending budget yesterday adds $4,300 of spending and debt for every household in Canada, and it increases the debt to GDP ratio next year. Mr. Speaker, why does the government continue to make promises it has no intention of keeping?
Great job, Adam. Minister of Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague opposite can look at the budget and look right in the lines and see very clearly that the deficit is going to continue to go down every single year for the next 5 years. In fact, Mr. Speaker, this year's budget is lower than last year's budget. And all of this is happening amid great economic headwinds around the globe. Mr. Speaker, Canada has the lowest deficit in the G7. It has the lowest debt in the G7 and the lowest debt to GDP ratio in all of the G7, Mr. Speaker. Those are the facts, and it's on our watch.
The honourable member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Prime Minister also said the pandemic debt we incurred to keep Canadians safe and solvent must and will be paid down. Even just a few months ago, the Deputy Prime Minister said the budget will be balanced. Another promise made, another promise broken. Now the government's adding $4,300 in new spending and debt for every household in Canada, and there's no balance in sight. Why do the broken promises keep costing Canadians so much?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration.
I'd remind the honourable member that despite the extraordinary need to respond to a once-in-a-century global pandemic, Canada maintains the healthiest fiscal position of any G7 economy. The reality is, it's fascinating for me to watch the Conservatives refuse to acknowledge the measures that we are putting in place to support Canadians, the measures to ensure that people can afford the cost of living as families struggle with the cost of inflation, the measures that are creating jobs in our communities, and the measures that are investing in health care so people who live in our neighbourhoods can have access to quality care and maybe have a family doctor. We make these promises, we keep these promises, and we do it in a fiscally responsible way.
Honorable député de Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, Ottawa is betraying Quebec's aerospace industry. Commenting on the budget, Aero Montréal stated that there's a lack of concrete measures dedicated to supporting small and medium businesses, but that's not all. At the same time, Ottawa is weakening our industry. The Liberals are offering a $9 billion military contract to Boeing on a silver platter, bypassing Bombardier without a penny of economic spin-offs for Quebec. When will Ottawa start supporting Quebec's aerospace industry instead of giving our money to our American rivals without a competitive process? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague. We've always been there for aerospace. We are there for aerospace. We'll always be there for aerospace. It seems to me that my colleague might have a short memory. He should remember that with Premier Legault and the leader of the Canadian government, we made the biggest announcement in the history of aerospace. And that was just a few months ago. We've always been there, and we will be there for aerospace workers in the future. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Mr. Speaker, it seems that Ottawa is doing it on purpose. Not only is there nothing in the budget for the future of aerospace, the Liberals are maintaining a misnamed and ill-conceived luxury tax that prevents our industry from selling its planes at competitive prices. Not only is Ottawa doing nothing to fill our order books tomorrow, it's making sure that there's nothing in them today. Right now, 2,000 jobs are at risk if the Liberals keep their tax the way it is. Will they finally suspend it so that we can fix this mistake before jobs are lost? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Mr. Speaker, we have a tax system in Canada that requires all Canadians to pay their fair share. Announcements in the budget for Quebec include $447 million for Quebec, additional transfers for health, $47.8 million over 9 months to improve Highway Bonaventure, $1 million to protect French in Quebec, Mr. Speaker, we're delivering the goods, and the Bloc Québécois is just looking for a fight.
Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Lost in yesterday's budget bonanza was the announcement of the appointment of the interim ethics commissioner, a Miss Martine Richard. Can the Prime Minister confirm and for the House and reassure Canadians that Miss Martine Richard is not the same person who is the sister-in-law of the Intergovernmental Affairs Minister who has been found guilty of breaking the Conflict of Interest Act?
Full Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the member opposite will know, the interim ethics commissioner is somebody who's a career public servant who in fact was engaged by the Stephen Harper government to come into the ethics commissioner's office. They are number 2 in the office and have been working in the ethics commissioner's office for over a decade. And it makes absolute and complete logical sense that they would be acting on an interim capacity after all of that information that I've just shared. And the member, of course, would be aware that an ethical screen always exists to ensure no such conflict occurs.
Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, they've got to be kidding. I guess they got tired of being found guilty. These are the Liberals. The Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, the new Ethics Commissioner's sister or brother-in-law, was found guilty of breaking the Ethics Act. The Prime Minister was found guilty of breaking the Act. The Trade Minister was found guilty of breaking the Act. This is a cabinet of serial lawbreakers, and now they've got an inside man working at the Ethics Commissioner's office. How can Canadians have confidence in the officers of Parliament if these guys are stacking the deck?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, Martine Richard is a woman, not a man. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, this individual has worked in the Ethics Commissioner's office for 10 years. They were engaged when it was Stephen Harper who was in government. Questioning their credibility, attacking them that way, those kinds of conspiracy theories have a place in Reddit. I'm not sure they have a place in this chamber.
For Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Well, what's not a conspiracy theory is that the Prime Minister Stephen Harper was never found guilty of breaking the Conflict of Interest Act, unlike this Prime Minister. The Conservatives never appointed family members to serve in the Ethics Commissioner's office because they wanted Canadians to have confidence in their public institutions. Unlike this serial law-breaking Prime Minister, twice found guilty of breaking ethics laws, and his Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, who now has his sister-in-law, who is going to make sure that there's no more guilty findings for these Liberals. Will they assure Canadians today that they will appoint someone who is independent and does not have the appearance of a conflict of interest?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, absolutely. In the appointment of any independent officer of Parliament, we always ensure that such individuals are independent and above beyond reproach, and I find it frankly extremely disappointing to take to somebody who has worked in the Ethics Commissioner's office for a decade and is now operating on an interim capacity.
The Honourable Government House Leader, you have about 20 seconds left.
Mr. Speaker, when we throw around accusations in this place, when we take public servants who've served their country for more than a decade, I would suggest that we use some, to be judicious in the way that we approach it. This is somebody who was appointed when Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister, who's worked in the Ethics Commissioner's office for a decade, and is acting in an interim capacity while we work with all parties collaboratively to find the right individual to be the permanent Ethics Commissioner.
The Honourable Member for London West.
Nous savons que les programmes provinciaux et territoriaux.
We know that provincial and territorial programs don't cover dental care needs equally across Canada. Yesterday, our government announced, as part of Budget 2023, the commitment to move forward with our investment and ensure access to dental care for Canadians who need it. And it creates the new Canadian Dental Care Plan. Can the Minister of Health talk more about our current plan to move our dental plan forward? The Honourable Minister for Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague for London West for the question. She knows, like all of us, that dental care is essential for health. That's why many children have received a significant subsidy for dental care. We will implement a dental care insurance plan for all Canadians whose household earns less than $90,000. We're going to offer health care for people with disabilities and children and seniors by the end of this year.
Murray Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, we found out that Canada imports all our baby formula from other countries. For over a year, there have been shortages of baby formula all across this country with no end in sight. And the shelves are now bare, leaving many families stressed, frustrated, and desperate. Moms and dads that rely on formula to feed their kids are now scared they won't be able to feed their baby. When does the Prime Minister intend to do something about this crisis?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm obviously very pleased to hear this question, although very troubled also by all the challenges that families, mothers and parents and fathers like me with children face in those very tight circumstances. That's why Health Canada has made sure that with special interim regulation policies, more than 70 additional formulas could be imported in the last few months to Canada. More will come because we're working with international providers that more infant formulas come more quickly to those children and families that need them.
Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
For the second year in a row, Liberals have expropriated $5 million of quota from Elver harvesters to give to others without compensation. This is against 2 decades of DFO policy that a willing buyer needs a willing seller. The minister in committee this week stated that the expropriation will come mainly from harvesters who haven't used their quota, yet her department has said it will come equally from all license holders. So who is right, the minister or her officials?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Our government is committed to advancing First Nations treaty right to fish. The Elver fishery is unique, and the preferred approach remains willing buyer, willing seller. That's a way to create predictability in the market and allow all harvesters to adequately plan. However, in keeping with the Adhausen court decision, we acknowledge that there are times that there is not a willing seller at a market price. A decision for the 23 season has not been made and will be shared soon.
Well, member for Thornhill.
More than 15,000 gathered in Toronto last Saturday to support Free Iran. Families of the victims of PS 752 were there. Survivors of the regime were there. People with loved ones suffering in Iran were there. But the member from Don Valley West stormed out in the middle of a speech by a world-renowned women's rights advocate, muttering something that I can't repeat in this House. Her crime was to call out the government for not banning the IRGC terrorists. So does he have the courage to stand up and apologize for his embarrassing display of disrespect, or is he going to storm out of here too?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I can say safely that without an exception, everyone in this House stands with the people of Iran in their struggles and with the regime. Against the regime and making sure that they stand with human rights and are every one of us is incredibly on that issue. Canada is recognized as a world leader in leading the way against the regime and for human rights. We have announced the 10th package of sanctions this last week. We have also made sure that IRGC officials cannot come to this country, and we will continue to work. Let me say, we may have different strategies.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Speaker, yesterday the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance presented Budget 2023, a Made in Canada plan. Unlike the empty rhetoric of the Conservative Party, this This is a real plan to deliver results for Canadians and one I am proud to share with my constituents on Hamilton Mountain. Can the Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance explain what this budget means for a strong middle class, an affordable economy, and a healthy future for Canadians?
Bravo. Minister of Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the honourable member for Hamilton Mountain for that excellent question and our hard work on the file. This budget will ensure that Canadians have more money in their pockets and invest in the challenges that we are facing today. It delivers on affordability by making sure there's a new grocery rebate that will help 11 million Canadians. It stabilizes and invests in our healthcare system in the long term, and it makes transformative investments to fight climate change, to build our economy, to support Canadian businesses, to fight climate change, to build the economy of the future. That's what Budget 23 is about, delivering for Canadians.
Member for Burnaby South.
We need to fight the climate crisis like we actually want to win. There is an incredible opportunity. If we make the right investments to tackle the climate crisis and tie that to good jobs, good union jobs, and good wages, we can actually create positive economic growth. And we did that in this budget. We forced this government to have strings attached to investments so that any dollar that goes to a company has to be tied to guarantees for good wages, good salaries, and good union jobs. Will this government commit that for any future investments to incentivize business, it has to have strings attached to good jobs, good pay, and union jobs?
The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Leader of the NDP for raising this question, because we have done something in Budget 23 that is new, and it demonstrates leadership by our Liberal government in the investment tax credits. Whether it is clean technology, whether it is hydrogen, whether it is the clean electricity grid, to earn the top credits, Mr. Speaker, you need to have labour participation. That labour participation needs to include apprentices, and Mr. Speaker, it will mean prevailing wages, as our labour partners asked us to do. We are delivering for union workers, we're delivering for Canadians.
Well, member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, people with disabilities deserve better from this government. When this government was serious about childcare, first came a federal investment of $30 billion, then agreements with provinces and territories, and then legislation. But for Canadians with disabilities living in poverty, yesterday's budget told them to just keep waiting, putting billions for a car on the moon and new gifts for oil and gas companies ahead of their basic needs. When will this government stop pretending agreements and legislation must be done before they put some money on the table?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, in Canada, no person with a disability should live in poverty. And that's why we are creating the Canada Disability Benefit, a thoughtfully designed income supplement with the potential to seriously reduce poverty and improve financial security for hundreds of thousands of working-age persons with disabilities from coast to coast to coast. On February 3rd, Bill C-22 passed unanimously in this House and is currently being studied at Senate committee. We look forward to its swift passage. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to say the Budget 2023 provides funding of $21.5 million to continue work on the Canada Disability Benefit. Thank you.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. And before we go to the point of order, we've got a couple of them that I believe are coming up. I'll make a note of it. I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Derek